Hello family. Welcome to Morales Stories, your home for gripping African tales. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. Now sit back and enjoy the drama. Zara Omondi wiped a bead of sweat from her brow as she stepped off the matatu beneath the gates of Nyaga Estate. The mansion of glass and steel loomed above her, its mirrored windows catching the dawn in blinding shards of light. She drew in a shaky breath, pressing her palm to her chest. This was her shot, her only shot, to escape the cycle of debt and desperation that had defined her life back in Kibera. For long, she'd been nothing more than a ghost in her own story. Nameless, faceless, without records or memories she could trust. Now, clutching a single application form, she was determined to become someone else entirely. Before today, Zara had known only the narrow alleys of Kibera, where children darted between rusted shacks and the air rang with hawkers' calls. She remembered the lullaby sung by an unseen voice, carried off by the wind before she understood its meaning. Hunger had left a sharper imprint than love, the rasp of empty bowls, the sting of borrowed sandals on red earth. No mother or father had waited at a door for her. Instead, she learned early that survival meant slipping through life unseen, a shadow on the busy paths of strangers. The security guard's scanner beeped as he examined her ID. "Name?" he asked, voice like gravel. Zara inhaled slowly. "Zara Omondi," she replied, forcing calm. Her words sounded small beneath the estate's towering walls. He stamped her form and nodded her inside without a second glance. The foyer swallowed her in cool marble and hushed grandeur, every surface polished to a high shine, every corridor echoing with invisible footsteps. A grand fountain burbled at the center, lights dancing on its rippling surface. Mrs. Mumbai emerged from an arched doorway, her silver-streaked bun as taut as a drum. Her hawk-like eyes assessed Zara in one swift sweep. "Welcome to Nyaga Estate," she said, voice low, precise. Zara inclined her head. Mrs. Mumbai's lips twitched in something like approval. "You start in the East Wing. Follow me." They passed through a gallery of abstract sculptures, then a hall lined with portraits of stern ancestors whose eyes seemed to follow Zara's every move. At the far end, an ornate oak door stood closed. Mrs. Mumbai tapped it once. "Do not enter this wing after sundown." Her tone left no room for question. "If you hear anything, voices, noises, you ignore them completely. Understood?" Zara swallowed. "Yes, ma'am." The manager's enigmatic smile vanished as she turned on her heel and disappeared without another word. Zara found her uniform in the staff quarters, a crisp navy dress and starched apron, and changed quickly. The fabric felt alien but comforting, like armor for an unseen battle. By mid-morning, she'd scrubbed floors, dusted window ledges, and polished silver candlesticks in the grand dining hall. The other staff watched her with polite distance, cooks in white jackets, butlers in dark suits, gardeners in faded overalls. Eyes flicked toward her, murmurs hushed when she passed. She reminded herself, keep working. Keep silent. At lunch, Zara slipped into the cavernous kitchen for a glass of water. The smell of stewing meats and jiko smoke mingled in the air. Chefs hunched over pots, whispering of the heir's recent disappearance and unexplained accidents on the estate. A hulking gardener leaned against a counter, muttering about faint blue lights in the East Wing windows after dark. Laundry attendants exchanged worried glances. Everywhere she turned, the staff seemed haunted by secrets. By mid-afternoon, the estate's manicured lawns lay half in shadow as clouds scudded overhead. Zara knelt in the hall polishing the last of a set of silver candle holders when she heard it, a soft, stifled sob drifting through the corridors. Her breath caught in her throat. She froze, duster hovering midair. The sound came again, low, human, unmistakable. Mrs. Mumbai's warning rang in her mind, but Zara's feet moved before her brain could catch up. She set aside her cart and crept toward the source of the sound. Every footstep echoed in the deserted hallway. Ahead, the East Wing door loomed, its carved panels gleaming. The sobbing pressed against the wood as though crying from inside. With trembling fingers, Zara turned the knob. The door swung open into dimness, lit only by a single lamp at the far end. Shadows pooled in corners. A crash, metal against marble, sounded behind a set of double doors. Zara's heart pounded. She steeled herself and stepped through. Inside lay a young man, slumped against a plush rug. His white shirt was stained dark with blood, one hand pressed futilely to his side. Zara's breath hitched. He looked ashen, barely clinging to consciousness. "Sir," she whispered and knelt beside him. His eyes fluttered open, green and wide with panic. "Help me," he gasped. Panic clawed at Zara's chest. She bolted for the foyer, voice cracking. "Help! He's hurt!" Within seconds, staff appeared, maids dropping dusters, a gardener abandoning a hoe, a security guard sprinting toward her. Mrs. Mumbai followed, face unreadable. Zara pointed. "There's someone dying in the east wing." Mrs. Mumbai's eyes grew ice. She dropped to one knee beside the injured man, pressing a handkerchief to his wound. "Call Dr. Kamau," she ordered. "Now." Zara's legs trembled as she watched the doctor slip into the room, instruments in hand. Within minutes, the man was stabilized on a stretcher, carried out by a team of silent attendants. Mrs. Mumbai rose and fixed Zara with a glare that burned. "That man is Kian Nyaga," she said in a low voice. "He was meant to die tonight. You've changed everything." Zara's breath faltered. Someone tried to kill him?" Mrs. Mumbai's eyes flashed steel. "Yes. And from now on, you have two options. Forget what you saw, or vanish." She turned and walked away, leaving Zara shivering in the vast, silent hall. That night, Zara lay on the narrow cot in her quarters, every muscle twitching with adrenaline. At 2:02 a.m., a slip of paper slid beneath her door. Hands shaking, she unfolded it. 2 words, "Stay silent." A crude drawing of a noose loomed beneath the message. Terror flooded her chest. Rain began to patter against the small window, turning the glass into a curtain of silver rivulets. Zara stared at the ceiling, mind racing. Stay silent, or disappear. Her heart thundered in her ears as the wind howled around the estate's corners. She pressed a palm to her pounding heart, realizing that curiosity had carried her beyond safe boundaries. Fear and adrenaline coiled together, but under the terror, a spark of determination glowed. She understood the cost of knowledge would be high. Yet if she retreated now, she would slip back into the shadows she had fought to leave. And this time, she would vanish completely. One thought anchored her as thunder rolled across the sky. Her life had changed forever. The estate's secrets had chosen her. There was no turning back. Storm clouds churned over Nyaga Estate as Zara Omondi finished her final rounds for the night. Rain pounded the sprawling lawns in relentless sheets, drumming against the glass walls like a warning. Each flash of lightning illuminated the polished corridors in stark white, revealing the grandeur and the shadows lurking within. Zara paused by a towering window, watching rivulets race down the glass, reminding her of the tears she could never shed for a past she'd forgotten. Memories fluttered at the edges of her mind, laughter in a sunlit courtyard, a lullaby half heard before it faded. Those fragments felt as distant as stars, but they reminded her why she would risk everything tonight. Ignorance had shielded her once. Now curiosity and compassion drove her forward. She murmured to herself, steadying her breath. Cleaning floors at night had become routine, though the hush of the estate always bore a hint of menace. Tonight felt different, electric, ominous. The whispered rumors among staff had grown louder, strange lights in the east wing, odd footsteps in empty halls. Zara's heart quickened as she locked the foyer door and stepped toward the forbidden corridor, mind reminding her of Mrs. Mumbai's piercing warning. A sudden crash echoed through the hallway, as if metal had collided with marble. Zara's fingers froze on her mop handle. The sound came again, louder and followed by a low, pained groan. Her instincts screamed to run, to stay clear of the east wing, but curiosity and concern overpowered her fear. Someone might be hurt. She had saved a life once. She could not ignore a cry for help. Swallowing hard, Zara turned the corner and hurried toward the noise, footsteps splashing through puddles on the polished floor. She reached the carved oak door marked East Wing and hesitated. Her heart thudded so loudly she thought it might give her presence away. She pressed her ear against the cool wood and heard it, a ragged breath, a soft moan. Every fiber of her being urged her to step back. Then she placed a trembling hand on the handle. The door swung open into darkness, only a single wall sconce flickering half-life at the far end. Thunder rumbled as Zara edged inside. Her uniform sleeves brushed damp carpets. The sudden hush smothered her footsteps. She saw movement down the hall, a figure crumpled at the threshold of a tall set of French doors, blood blooming across crisp fabric. "Sir," she whispered, voice brittle. The man's head lolled toward her. Dark hair clung to a fever-pale brow. He coughed, a gurgle of pain fading into silence. Zara's stomach slammed against her spine. She dropped to her knees beside him. "Please, wake up." When she pressed her fingers to his neck, she found a feeble pulse, racing like a trapped bird. Panic and purpose jolted her into action. She pulled out her phone. "Help! I need help in the East Wing," she shouted down the corridor. Lights flickered on as staff poured in behind her, a butler clutching a flashlight, a cook carrying a first-aid kit, a guard raising a two-way radio. Zara knelt, pressing a towel against the wound on the man's side. He groaned and opened his eyes, panic and recognition flickering in vibrant green irises. "Zara," he rasped. Mrs. Mumbai arrived seconds later, swift and silent. She dropped to her knees beside them and gently displaced Zara's trembling hand. "Stand back," she ordered the cook. "Dr. Kamau now." The house manager's composure was unshakable, but Zara saw tension in her jaw. Within moments, Dr. Kamau stepped into the circle of light, tools in hand. He assessed the wound, murmured orders, and began emergency treatment. Zara retreated to the corridor, body shaking, every instinct on high alert. She watched through the doorway, heart lodged in her throat. The man's lab coat bore a crest she recognized, Nyaga Industries. When Dr. Kamau finished, he helped load the man onto a stretcher. A hush fell as Mrs. Mumbai placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. "You'll be safe," she promised in a low tone. The man's eyes fluttered closed. Zara felt relief wash through her, only to be replaced with a cold dread. The corridor emptied, leaving Zara alone with pounding rain and distant thunder. She slid down the wall, sliding into a crouch as the storm's roar filled her ears. Her chest tightened. She risked a glance at the door. She should leave. She should never have come here. But part of her dreaded returning to ignorance. Knowledge had a price, but apathy could cost her soul. Over the next days, shifts took on new meaning. Other staff avoided her gaze, whispers trailing behind her as she moved. The head chef asked her to deliver plates without a word. The gardener crossed to the opposite side of a hallway. Even the usually cordial groundskeeper fell silent when she passed. Zara's uniform felt heavy, stained with a secret she carried alone. One afternoon, as she polished silver in the upper dining hall, a young housemaid hovered at the edge of the room. When Zara acknowledged her, the girl's eyes darted away. Steeling herself, Zara approached. "Amina, can I speak with you?" she asked quietly. The maid shook her head. "I'm sorry, Ms. Omondi. I just can't." Zara's heart wrenched. She crouched beside her, voice gentle. "It's okay, Amina. No one should punish you for conscience." The maid's eyes welled. She shook her head again, tears tracing paths down her cheeks. "They said the same to me before I nearly never came back." By nightfall, Zara carried her cleaning cart through the dim hallways with furtive glances at the east wing door. Each step felt like trespassing on forbidden ground. She tried to focus on routine, dusting frames, vacuuming rugs, but every brushstroke against a surface was a reminder of what she'd seen. At 2:47 a.m., Zara crept into her quarters for a few hours' rest. Lightning illuminated the narrow room in fierce white arcs. She dropped her uniform into a chair and crawled beneath the thin blanket. The storm rattled the window, and sleep came in fleeting fragments. A pale figure reaching for her, a whispered warning, the rush of blood in her ears. She awoke with a start to a whisper of paper sliding against wood. Blinking into darkness, Zara saw a small envelope resting at the foot of her cot. Her pulse leapt. She reached for it, fingers trembling as she turned on her flashlight. The envelope was unmarked. Inside lay a note scrawled in jagged crimson letters. "Stay silent, or disappear." Her breath caught. Beneath the words, a crudely drawn noose stained the page. Zara's hand went icy. She pressed her palm against her pounding heart, staring at the words that threatened her very existence. Outside, thunder rolled as if echoing her fear. She crumpled the note, tears she'd kept buried finally surfacing. Alone in the flickering lamplight, Zara realized that saving a life had blurred the line between duty and danger. The estate's dark secret had chosen her as both savior and target. She folded the note carefully, hiding it in her pocket. As the storm raged on, Zara stared into the shadows of her room. She understood Mrs. Mumbai's warning all too clearly now. Obstinacy would mean obliteration. Yet a spark of defiance glowed within her. She pressed her hand to her pocket, feeling the folded paper's sharp corner. She would not vanish. Tomorrow, she would face whatever storm the estate unleashed. Knowledge was a burden, but ignorance was a cage. Stay vigilant. 2 days had passed since the stormy night when Zara Omondi saved Nyaga from certain death. Each step she took across the marble floors felt weighted by unseen eyes. Whispers trailed her corridors. Every creak in the walls seemed to carry warning. Still, she refused to be paralyzed by fear. She had glimpsed the truth, and she would not slip back into ignorance. The estate had secrets, and one secret belonged to the very man she helped. At dawn, Zara arrived early to the courtyard where Kian had asked to meet her. The tiled floor glistened with dew, and jasmine vines climbed stone pillars, their sweet scent drifting on the cool air. A single wrought-iron table stood beneath an arbor. She smoothed her uniform, heart pulsing, and approached. Before she could call his name, she felt a presence. She turned slowly. Nyaga emerged from the shadow of an olive tree, wearing a dark jacket over simple clothes that banished any trace of billionaire privilege. His hair was damp from a brief shower, face pale but resolved. He stepped forward, offering her a small, genuine smile. "Zara," he said, voice quiet. "Thank you for coming." She nodded, swallowing. "I wouldn't stay away." Her voice sounded brittle. He motioned to the seat opposite. "Please, sit." She did. He slid a small envelope across the table. "This is what I promised." Her fingers trembled as she picked it up. The envelope bore no markings, but inside lay a USB drive. Zara's eyes flicked up to his. "Is this everything?" He nodded. "Offshore accounts, trafficking networks, blackmail files, my family's crimes. I want the world to see it." He paused, gaze intense. "But I can't risk sending it myself. They watch every phone line." Zara tucked the drive into her apron pocket. "I understand." Her mind raced with the implications. Exposing a billionaire family's corruption wasn't a simple act, it was a revolt against power itself. Still, she felt a spark of purpose she'd never known. Kian studied her. "I know this changes everything for you." She met his gaze. "I'm already changed." He nodded slowly, appreciation in his eyes. "I need your help to get this to someone outside. A journalist, a lawyer, anyone who can publish and protect us." She drew in a steadying breath. "I can. The staff routes let me in and out unnoticed." He pressed a hand to his chest. "You're risking your life for me." She managed a small smile. "I didn't do it for you specifically. But someone had to take a stand." A distant thunder rolled, as if echoing her conviction. They lingered until the sun climbed. Then, as promised, Kian led Zara through hidden passages known only to servants. Dark stone corridors ran beneath the estate, lit by dim sconces. He paused at a nondescript door marked, "Servants' Entrance." "From here, you can slip out. The guard rotates every 30 minutes. You'll have a narrow window." Zara's stomach twisted. "What about you?" He faced her, expression solemn. "I'll wait until I know you're safe. Then I will follow." She pressed a hand to his sleeve. "Don't second-guess. We do this together." He exhaled, relief softening his features. "Together." That night, Zara returned to her quarters with nerves rattling. She hid the envelope beneath her uniform, heart pounding. Every sound seemed amplified. Outside her door, a faint knock echoed. She froze. Who could it be? She squeezed her eyes shut, willing herself calm. The knock came again, gentler this time. "Zara." Her breath caught. She recognized the voice. Crouching, she peeked through the crack. Kian stood there, expression pinched with worry. "I couldn't wait." Zara opened the door. He stepped inside quietly, glancing around. "I saw the note under your door," he said, voice low. "Who gave it to you?" She swallowed. "Someone who wants to keep this estate's secret safe, or buried." He stepped closer, concern etched in his green eyes. "I'm sorry you have to bear this alone." She shook her head. "I don't bear it alone." He placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Promise me you'll stay safe. If things go wrong," his voice faltered, but the threat was clear. She pressed his hand. "I promise." For a moment the world outside ceased to exist. Kian's hand lingered in hers, warmth seeping into her trembling fingers. Then he took a step back, wounded pride touching his gaze. "I haven't had anyone believe in me like you do," he confessed. His voice cracked with vulnerability that no lawyer's suit or polished accent could ever hide. Zara swallowed, surprised by the intimacy of the confession. "You're not alone anymore," she said softly. "We're in this together." He managed a small, grateful smile and brushed a gentle kiss on her knuckles before slipping from the room. At 2:37 a.m., a faint whisper brushed beneath her door. "He's alive, but we need the files." Zara's heart thundered as she pressed her palm against the wood, steeling herself. Silently, she retrieved the note from beneath her pillow and crumpled it in her fist. Fear sharpened her resolve. When dawn broke, Zara stood before the grand gates of the estate. The sky was a bruised purple, the world still wet from rain. She stepped onto the path leading to the servants' exit where Kian had said the guard rotated. With every step, she felt the gravity of her decision. Passing under the silent sentry's watchful gaze, she sent a silent prayer to the woman she might never meet, her mother, her ghosts, hoping they were proud. As she slipped beyond the gate, the dawn air felt like freedom. The USB tucked safely inside her apron, she glanced back once. The towers of glass and steel receded, but the weight of the estate's secrets remained, riding on her shoulders. She pressed onward, toward the contact who would shake the foundations of power. And in that moment, Zara Omondi embraced her new identity, not as a ghost of the past, but as a force for truth. She walked with her head held high, knowing her choices would not only redefine her own destiny but also echo across the nation like thunder. There was no turning back now. A week had passed since Zara Omondi slipped the encrypted USB drive into her apron pocket. Each morning, she awoke to the memory of Mrs. Mumbai's warning, the echo of thunder through marble halls, and the image of Kian Nyaga's pale face as she found him bleeding on the floor of the forbidden East Wing. Since then, Zara's life had become a careful dance between duty and danger. She performed her cleaning rounds with deliberate precision, but her thoughts raced toward what lay hidden beneath the estate's surface. On this quiet Tuesday evening, Zara finished her chores in the main house before slipping away in the fading light. The staff kitchen lay at the end of a service corridor, its sterile linoleum floor hidden by late afternoon shadows. A single overhead light buzzed intermittently. She paused outside the heavy door marked "Maintenance" and pressed her ear to the cool metal. Hearing nothing but the faint hum of the estate's generators, she slipped the key from her apron pocket, unlocked the door, and entered. The maintenance corridor was narrow and dim, painted a dull gray, with exposed water pipes overhead dripping condensation onto concrete. The faint odor of oil and damp concrete filled the air. Zara clutched her cart as she followed the painted arrow on the wall pointing to "Basement level, staff only." Her heart thudded, each beat echoing in her ears. She swallowed, recalling Kian's words, "The vault is down here, beneath everything they hide." At the end of the corridor, a reinforced steel door blocked her path. A small electronic keypad glowed softly beside it. Zara's fingers hovered over the keys. She closed her eyes and recalled the access code Kian had whispered in her ear under the courtyard's jasmine arbor, 8 digits that tasted like stolen freedom. She entered them carefully. The lock clicked. The door swung open to reveal a cavernous chamber lit by fluorescent strips overhead. Zara's breath caught as she stepped inside. The vault was larger than she imagined, an underground repository containing the Nyaga family's darkest and most guarded secrets. Steel cabinets lined the walls, each one locked with a combination wheel or digital scanner. In the center stood a long conference table strewn with documents, black binders, and stamped envelopes. A bank-style dehumidifier hummed steadily, regulating temperature and humidity to preserve paper and film. She brushed a strand of hair from her face and moved forward, instincts flickering between awe and dread. She found a workstation at the table's end, complete with a desktop computer, flat-screen monitor, and an external hard drive dock. Zara pressed a gloved finger to the power button. The screen flickered alive, displaying a login prompt. She inserted the USB drive into the dock, holding her breath as the monitor read, "Access protected." A second monitor lit up, requesting the decryption key. Zara's hands trembled as she typed the complex passphrase Kian had given her. Seconds later, the screen filled with folders labeled in terse white letters, offshore_accounts on 2019-2024, blackmail archive, illegal mining trucks, trafficking ledger, and one file name that made her heart seize, disposable civilian list. Her breath came fast as she clicked, offshore accounts on 2019-2024. A spreadsheet opened, revealing columns of names, dates, and sums wired through shell corporations in the Cayman Islands, Swiss banks, and trusts in Dubai. She scrolled, eyes widening at figures in the millions, transactions layering across years. Each entry linked Nyaga Industries to menacing accounts offshore, proof of tax evasion and money laundering on a scale that could topple governments. Next, she opened Blackmail Archive. A torrent of folders spilled onto the screen, each one named after a public figure: Senator K. Mwangi, Judge A. Onyango, Minister J. Kamuthi, along with dozens of others. Clicking into one folder, she saw scanned photographs, recorded conversations, and personal correspondence, evidence of bribes paid to silence critics, hush money delivered to cover up affairs, threats recorded on hidden cameras. The machinations of a family dynasty built on coercion and power. She shuddered but continued, opening illegal mining trucks. Detailed maps showed mining operations in remote regions of Sierra Leone and the Congo, where the Nyaga name did not appear on public records. PDF files contained shipping logs for heavy machinery transported at odd hours under false manifests. Locals and environmental reports spoke of poisoned rivers and displaced villages. Zara's eyes stung with tears for the nameless faces behind the data. Finally, she clicked, Trafficking Ledger. The screen filled with lists of people, women and children, names highlighted in yellow. Below each name, horrifying notes: confirmed delivery, destination, Middle East, payment, $5,000, vendor, unknown. Talcum-powdered fingerprints on a police dossier, phone numbers of recruiters, coded messages about boat schedules. At the bottom of the folder list, she found disposable civilian list. With trembling fingers, she opened it. There, on a single spreadsheet, were names of estate staff, gardeners, cooks, housekeepers, names that matched many she'd seen. Beside each name, the date they were hired and a code indicating their status: F for family, E for expendable. Zara scrolled, horror tightening her chest. On the list was her own name, Zara Omondi, followed by today's date and the letter E. She was marked disposable, meant to be used if necessary, then discarded without trace. Her breath caught in her throat. They had planned her downfall before she even arrived. She felt betrayed, used, nearly broken. But anger flamed in her gut. They had underestimated her resolve. A sudden echo of footsteps behind her made her spin. Mrs. Mumbai stood at the vault entrance, arms folded and expression unreadable. Her eyes shone with a mixture of pride and sorrow. "You found it," she said softly. "Spirits of deceit, born from greed." Zara closed her laptop, rising to her feet. Her knees shook. "Mrs. Mumbai, why are you here?" she asked, voice trembling. Mumbai stepped into the chamber, the yellow security light behind her casting a halo of authority. "Because, my child," she said, using the term of endearment she seldom employed, "I knew you would come." Zara met her gaze. "You knew all this was here. You collected it." Mumbai nodded, stepping beside her to peer at the screen. "Each cabinet, each file, each digital record, I built this evidence over decades." She gestured at the cabinets. "This chamber is my life's work. I gathered proof piece by piece, secretly documenting every crime the patriarch forced me to oversee." She sank into a leather chair. "I was his first wife, cast aside when he married the new woman, told to vanish. I stayed as housekeeper to protect Kian from the shadows. I watched him grow, isolated, imprisoned by our own blood." Zara swallowed. "Then you're the mother he never knew." Mrs. Mumbai's lips curved in a sad smile. "Yes. And now we reclaim our story." She reached into her coat pocket and produced a thick folder labeled Media_Dispatch. This contains a copy of every file here, encrypted for safe transport. We send it to the appropriate journalists and international agencies simultaneously. We expose them globally: banks, governments, human rights organizations. When the world sees this, the house of cards will collapse. Zara's heart pounded. What about you? What about Kian? Mumbai's eyes glinted with determination. We vanish. The patriarch's empire will crumble from the inside, but we cannot stand for public retribution. Kian will be exiled, protected by false identities until the dust settles. You too. She looked at Zara with a mother's fierce pride. You have a new life beyond these walls, a life you choose. Zara felt tears prick her eyes. The woman standing before her, once a stoic manager, now revealed as a mother and avenger, had risked everything for justice. What do you need from me? She whispered. Mumbai rose, placing a hand on Zara's shoulder. Your courage. Your willingness to act when fear would hold you back. She strode to the vault door, checking a watch on her wrist. The shipment goes out at midnight. We have hours to prepare. They worked together. Mumbai transferred digital copies onto secure drives, printed copies of the most damning documents, and placed them in tamper-proof envelopes. Zara organized the files, labeling each for specific news outlets: one for major Kenyan newspapers, one for international press agencies, one for anti-corruption NGOs. Each package bore a return address in London or Washington, far from Nyaga Estate. They sealed the last envelope as the clock on the desk ticked toward 10:30. As midnight approached, Zara felt adrenaline and exhaustion collide. They carried the packages in a black duffel bag, hearts thrumming like war drums. Mumbai slipped a final envelope into Zara's hands, this one addressed to a courageous investigative reporter known for fearless exposés. You'll take this one personally, she said. Make sure it arrives. Zara nodded, resolve hardening. I will. They exited the vault, leaving behind the silent cabinets that housed unimaginable crimes. The door hissed shut behind them, cloaking the chamber in darkness and secrecy. In the narrow corridor, Mumbai pressed a screw on the wall. A panel slid aside to reveal an unguarded exit. Follow me, she whispered. Outside, the night air was cool and scented with rain on hot earth. The estate lay mostly silent, except for distant generators. Zara and Mrs. Mumbai moved like shadows, slipping past quiet guards who glanced only briefly. Each step felt surreal. They were women at the heart of a conspiracy so vast it could reshape nations. At the servants' exit, Mumbai paused. Your path diverges here. She unclasped a silver locket from around her neck, opening it to reveal a faded photograph of a small boy, Kian as a child in humble clothes, smiling shyly. Take this, she said, placing it around Zara's neck. So you remember what you risked, and what you gained. Zara fastened the chain, heart aching. Thank you. Mumbai drew her into a brief embrace before slipping back into the shadows. Go, she urged. Tell the world the truth. With one last nod, Zara stepped into the cool night, duffel bag in hand, slipping past the final guard and into a waiting vehicle, a battered matatu repainted black, driven by a trusted ally. As the vehicle pulled away from the estate's gates, Zara pressed her face to the window. The lights of Nyaga steel and glass shrank behind her, looming like a silent monolith of betrayal. Clutching the duffel bag and the locket at her throat, she felt the weight of centuries of corruption and the promise of liberation. The files within that bag would shatter illusions, topple dynasties, and bring justice to the voiceless. The matatu's engine hummed as it merged onto the dark road. Ahead lay a journey fraught with danger, but also the hope of redemption. In her pocket, the USB drive hummed with truth. Around her neck, the locket pulsed with memory. And somewhere, deep inside, Zara Omondi felt a spark of transformation. No longer a maid in the shadows, but the herald of a reckoning the world would never forget. The moon hung low and silver over Nyaga Estate as Zara Omondi crouched behind the hedges bordering the perimeter. Every breath she took felt borrowed, every heartbeat a countdown. In her lap, the duffel bag held evidence that could bring down a dynasty. Beside her, Kian Nyaga adjusted his jacket, eyes scanning the distance. Tonight, they would flee. Tonight, they would save innocent lives from the legacy of blood money, or vanish trying. They had prepared. Mrs. Mumbai had arranged a nondescript black sedan, parked near the servants' exit. The driver, a loyal old friend from her days before the patriarch's exile, waited inside. Zara's uniform had been replaced by a plain gray hoodie and jeans borrowed from the laundry. Kian wore dark attire, blending into the shadows. Under the hedges, they waited for the rustle of leaves that signaled Mrs. Mumbai's approach. A soft click reached them. The hedges parted as Mrs. Mumbai emerged, face lit by determination. She moved with purpose, carrying herself like the queen of shadows she was. Zara rose to her feet. "Mother," Kian said, the words sounding strange and powerful on his tongue. Mrs. Mumbai gave him a curt nod. "Time is short. The leak is scheduled at midnight. After that, the estate will be on high alert." Zara swallowed. "What about the security sweep? The cameras will be scanning." Mumbai's dark eyes flashed. "Already disabled. Temporary blind spots in the security network. Just long enough for you to slip through." She crouched, peering at the fence ahead. "The main patrol rotates every 15 minutes. We have a narrow window. Move fast, stay low." Kian clasped Zara's hand. "Thank you, Mama," he whispered. Mrs. Mumbai's lips curved in a faint, bittersweet smile. "No," she said softly. "Thank you for freeing me." They slipped forward, shadows among shadows. The fence gate, concealed by ivy, swung open under Mumbai's deft fingers. Inside, the black sedan idled. The driver nodded as they approached. Zara glanced back at the estate silhouette, lights glowing behind tempered glass, walls that felt as cold as the fortune hidden inside. She stepped into the car, duffel bag clasped to her chest, and felt the engine growl as Kian followed. The city lights of Nairobi beckoned beyond darkness. Kian didn't answer. He stared at the looming estate, pain and resolve mingling in his expression. "Not yet," he murmured. "Not until it's over." The sedan pulled away from the Nyaga Estate. The three drove in tense silence, the duffel bag between Zara and Kian like a silent witness. Mrs. Mumbai, in the back seat, studied them in the rearview mirror. In this moment, she was not house manager or exile, but a mother making one final sacrifice. At Wakalima Road, Mumbai tapped Zara's shoulder. "This is where we part ways." Confusion and fear flared in Zara's eyes. She shook her head. "But—" Mumbai held up a hand. "I cannot go further." Her voice trembled. The steady resolve cracked, revealing years of sorrow. "They will stop at nothing to silence us. They know who I am. If we all stay together, they will hunt us like dogs." Zara's chest tightened. "You risked everything to bring them down." Mrs. Mumbai's jaw set. "My role is done. The press will release the files at midnight. By dawn, the patriarch and those loyal will be exposed. At that point, my presence is more danger than aid." She reached into her coat and pulled out a simple cloth-wrapped object. Zara recognized the locket from the vault. "Keep this safe," Mumbai said, pressing it into Zara's hand. "A reminder of what you've achieved and who we are." Tears glistened in her eyes. "Now go." Kian squeezed his mother's shoulders. His voice cracked. "I love you, Mama." She brushed a tear from his cheek. "Go. Live." He nodded, stepping out and pressing a quick kiss to her forehead. She watched them move toward a side street, fading into Nairobi's glow, then exhaled, bending into the seat. The sedan rolled on from the Nyaga Estate. In the front seat, Zara looked down at the locket, heart heavy. Kian eased her hand. "He's going to pay," he said. "My family's crimes will be exposed to the world." Zara drew in a steadying breath. "And then—" Kian's gaze fixed on the road ahead. "Then we start over." They merged onto James Gichuru Road, heading north toward the outskirts and one of the safe houses Mumbai had arranged. At a deserted petrol station, the driver refueled. Zara stepped out into the humid night, inhaling the smells of fuel and street food. She spotted Kian wandering toward the pumps, staring at the papers he'd taken from the duffel. She caught his arm. "Focus," she whispered. "We can't lose track of time." He nodded, tucking the sheets back into the bag. "You're right." They climbed back in, and Mumbai guided the driver to the back entrance of a nondescript building. Inside, a safe house lay hidden behind a false wall. Zara watched as Mumbai unlocked the door. Something in her mother's eyes said this could be their last home. Over a bare wooden table, they spread out the duffel's contents. Kian pulled the secure drives, laptop, and 2 cell phones. "All set?" he asked. Zara tapped the screen on her phone, where the press contact's number lay. "Ready." Mumbai nodded. "Now, you call the contacts simultaneously. 3 calls, 3 emails. 1 to the local newspaper, 1 to the international agency, and 1 to the human rights organization. Then we wait." Kian exhaled, rubbing his temples. "I never imagined this day would come." His voice trembled with relief and grief. "I was born into privilege. I thought I understood the world. Now I see my family built its empire on suffering." He shuddered. "My father would see me dead rather than let this truth out." Footsteps and distant sirens ratcheted their nerves. Mumbai rose, smoothing her dress. "No more talk. It's time." She watched Kian and Zara share a determined glance. Then he dialed the first number, hands steady. Zara pressed a key, launching the encrypted email. Another press, and the phone rang at the International Press Office. Kian murmured a brief message, then hung up. Zara sent the final dispatch to the NGO. They exhaled in unison. Mumbai moved to the window. "By dawn, the storm will break." She turned to them. "You should be gone before morning." Kian took Zara's hand. "Let's go." Together, they packed the last items, a few clothes, cash, the locket around Zara's neck. They embraced Mumbai fiercely, gratitude and hurt mingling in a silent promise. Mrs. Mumbai closed her eyes, a single tear on her cheek. "Protect each other," she whispered. They fled into the night, stepping into the world as fugitives and truth-bearers. The safe-house door clicked shut behind Mumbai, sealing her fate with the estate they had built to destroy. Zara's heart pounded as they slipped into the dark alleys of Nairobi, blends of neon and gloom guiding their escape. In the distance, the first headlines began to pop up on the driver's phone. Nyaga Empire exposed. Billionaire scandal rocks Kenya. Secret vault uncovers blood money. The driver glanced back in shock. Kian exhaled, voice low. "It worked." Zara's eyes shone with tears and triumph. "We did it." But as they rounded a corner, a black SUV idled behind them, headlights glinting. Zara felt her blood chill. "Behind us," she breathed. Kian's jaw tightened. "Hold on." He urged the driver forward, weaving through traffic. The SUV stayed on their tail. Zara's heart pounded as the city lights blurred by. Between them and dawn lay betrayal, loyalty, and a choice: face their pursuers or vanish into the shadows. The night had only just begun. The first pale light of dawn crept over the red-tiled roofs of Nairobi as Zara Omondi and Kian Nyaga settled into the seats of a battered intercity bus. Beyond the window, the city's skyline shimmered golden, but their hearts were heavier than ever. News of the Nyaga family's downfall had burst across the airwaves through the night. Leaked documents, eyewitness testimony, and diplomatic outrage. Helicopters hovered above the sprawling estate, police sirens wailed through corridors of power, and teams in dark suits scoured every corner of the property. The scandal would dominate headlines for weeks, but for Zara and Kian it was a reckoning decades in the making. Inside the bus, Zara clasped the worn handle of her backpack that contained only a few possessions: the encrypted drives that bore the weight of their mission, a photograph of herself as a child, and the silver locket Mrs. Mumbai had given her. Kian sat across the aisle, his shoulders hunched, face pale but resolute. He pressed his palm against the glass as though the bus's slow pace might allow him to watch the storm he had unleashed. He looked older than his 35 years, the crease between his brows etched by guilt and hope alike. A passenger beside Zara tapped her shoulder. "Excuse me," the woman whispered, showing her phone screen. "Are you Zara Omondi? You're the housekeeper in the news." The question brought stares from every seat. Zara nodded, forcing a tight smile. "Yes," she replied quietly. "I'm her." The woman's eyes filled with awe and gratitude. "Thank you for speaking out. My brother, he worked in the mines they funded. He's still missing." Zara's heart tightened. The Empire's crimes had touched countless lives. She reached across the aisle and squeezed Kian's hand, a silent acknowledgement of the burden they shared. Kian returned, sliding into his seat beside Zara. He exhaled, voice low. They raided the estate. The patriarch is in custody. Lydia Nyaga is cooperating. Zara nodded, feeling tears come unbidden. It's over, she whispered. He shook his head. For them, it's over. For us, it's just beginning. He reached for her hand, his thumb brushing her knuckles. The warmth of his touch grounded her. As the bus rumbled onto the highway, the pair watched farmland and scrubland slip past. The city's glow faded behind them. They had arranged to travel north to the coast, to Mombasa, where Mrs. Mumbai's allies had secured a safe haven. Kian studied Zara's face in the reflection of the window. "What will you do when we get there?" she asked. He considered. "I want to build something new, something honest. Maybe a school, a clinic. For those who suffered under our family's reign." Zara's chest tightened with emotion at his words. "I'll help," she promised softly. The conversation drifted to plans and hopes. Kian spoke of a small plot of land by the sea where they could plant a garden and build a simple home. Zara imagined mango trees and the salty breeze, children's laughter echoing across sunlit courtyards. She believed, for the first time, that she belonged somewhere. She and Kian would be equals, partners in life and purpose. As midday approached, they disembarked at a roadside terminal. The bus hissed away into the distance, leaving them with 2 backpacks and the weight of memory. A driver hired by Mrs. Mumbai waited, ready to take them the remaining distance to the coast. Kian handed him the photograph of Mrs. Mumbai and whispered instructions. The driver nodded solemnly. Mumbai's face would guide them, her strength, her sacrifice, her unwavering faith. They climbed into the SUV, the engine's rumble underlining their journey forward. Kian reached for Zara's hand across the console. "Thank you," he said simply. Tears glimmered in Zara's eyes. "No," she replied softly. "Thank you for trusting me." They shared a smile. On the road to Mombasa, dusk painted the sky in bruised purples and gold. They passed fishermen repairing nets and schoolchildren walking home, unaware of the scandal that had reshaped a nation. The world beyond the Nyaga Estate moved on. Life marched forward with simple rhythms: water from wells, bread on tables, prayers at dusk. As darkness fell, they arrived at a modest bungalow perched above palm-dotted sands. A lamp glowed inside. Mrs. Mumbai stood on the veranda, wrapped in a shawl, her silver hair illuminated by lamplight. She opened her arms as they stepped onto the porch. Kian ran forward, enveloping her in a fierce embrace. Zara followed, pressing close to the woman who had been both house manager and mother. Inside, a small meal awaited: fresh chapati, stewed vegetables, and steaming tea. They sat around a low table. Mumbai poured tea, her hand steady. "You did it," she said quietly. "You brought the truth to light." Zara bowed her head. "We all did." She looked at Kian. "What now?" He reached for a teacup. "Now we live." They clinked cups, a soft toast in the candlelight. After supper, Mumbai rose and retrieved a worn leather journal from her bag. She handed it to Zara. "This was my father's diary," she explained. "He was a young man when he inherited this estate. He wrote it in secret, documenting the first time he realized what his father was capable of." Zara opened the journal. The pages were yellowed, the handwriting elegant yet haunted. Selected passages recounted the first blackmail, the earliest bribes. The final entry spoke of fear, writing that he used his power to silence his own brother. Each word was a testament to how corruption could poison even a single soul, let alone a dynasty. Tears filled Zara's eyes. She folded the journal carefully. "Thank you for sharing this." Mumbai nodded, eyes distant. "Keep it. A reminder that change is possible." Zara placed it gently in her pack beside the drives. Later that night, Zara and Kian sat on the veranda's edge, waves whispering below. The sky was a swirl of stars. Zara tilted her head against Kian's shoulder. "Do you think they'll rebuild the estate with honest people in charge?" she asked. He wrapped an arm around her. "They must rebuild. These walls should hold laughter and not fear." He kissed her temple. "And we'll be part of that." The night stretched on, wind rustling palm fronds. Zara closed her eyes, remembering every step. A frightened girl pushing open the east wing door, a bloody heir pleading for help, a mother disguised as manager gathering damning evidence, betrayal and refuge, the final escape. Each memory was a thread in their new tapestry, a story of survival and truth. Before dawn, Zara rose and walked to the water's edge, sand cool beneath her feet. The lights of the bungalow glowed behind her. She gazed at the horizon, waiting for the sun's first breath. She felt the weight of the locket at her throat, the photograph in her pocket, the drives that bore the world's secrets. She understood that freedom was not an end but a beginning. When the sky shifted to rose and gold, Kian joined her. He slipped an arm around her waist. "Good morning," he whispered. Zara smiled. "Good morning." Together, they watched the horizon blaze, hands entwined. A new day had begun. The Nyaga family's empire lay in ruins, and the estate secrets were out in the open. But for Zara and Kian, the real reckoning was just beginning. To build a future worthy of the truth they had fought to reveal, to honor the sacrifices that had led them here, and to transform their pain into purpose. Under the rising sun, they turned from the sea toward the bungalow, ready to face whatever lay ahead. They would rebuild, together, on foundations of justice and hope, proof that even the darkest secrets can give birth to light. The end. Loved the story? Smash that like button, hit subscribe, and become part of the Morales Stories family. Your support helps us bring more powerful African tales to life. Thanks for watching. We can't wait to share the next one with you. See you again.